Pleasure to have you on as a guest speaker. It would be amazing if you can kindly just introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about, the amazing stuff you're doing at Beyond Elevation and at Techstars, if you can kick it off.
Thanks, Zach. Hi, everybody. My name is Hayat Amin. So 2 seconds on my background. 15, 16 years in the B2B ecosystem as a C-suite, predominantly a CFO. Uh, Two exits, three-time fastest growing list in Europe, 7 or 8 failures, all combined gives me some sort of a unique edge, if I say so myself, in the CFO world. I am also a lead mentor for Techstars, which is the second largest investors in the world after YC, and also CEO of Beyond Elevation.
Right.
Beyond Elevation is the sort of go-to platform for innovative companies to find fractional executives. So we do that, but also we have a agency model where we help financial directors, financial managers, and CFOs transform to becoming fractional. So we take care of from representing them as part of the agency, but as well as from marketing, brand creation, strategy, create funnels, how to just get more clients and become a fractional C-suite.
Right, I see. So you do both sides. You do from the company perspective to find those fractional CFOs, and then also on the development side, helping the careers, maybe someone who wants to move into that space of being a fractional CFO.
Yeah, 100%. So I've been lucky enough to do the transformation myself, slowly, painfully, but I have done it, and I see the sort of need for something like this, where a lot of companies, SMEs, would not put a budget in for a good quality CFO. However, they would easily take a fractional CFO, and there's a way to do it, and I teach that, and I coach the FDs and CFOs. But as well, it just makes sense. I have a network of clients that I can tap into and utilize that to give fractional roles to these guys, the CFOs.
Right. I mean, later on in the episode, I'm definitely going to pick your brains about, how someone can go from being a full-time CFO to fractional. Before we get into that, I'd love to ask, your opinion on the job spec of the CFO role in its current climate, how it's changed in recent years, and what we can expect it to look like from this year and beyond.
So yeah, I mean, I think the main thing that has changed is there's more people expect more from a CFO. It's the what do we do with the numbers rather than getting to the numbers because of automation and hopefully AI kicking in as well. So my job is to make sure that we don't get scared as an industry, even though Times rated the second job industry to be disrupted by AI to be accounting and finance. But I see it completely differently. I believe the future of work for accountants and CFOs is freedom of work. It actually, if you play the cards right, you can be more free, earn 3x, 4x more than your full-time job just by utilizing fractional model. So I think going back to your question, what's changed is definitely the element of can you paint a story? Can you quantify the company's vision in numbers?
Right.
Can you get the P&L and balance sheet and go beyond? Can we mix data from the back of a website to a platform? Or if you're an e-commerce store, can you take metrics from your products and mix it with other metrics? Can you create KPIs? We know there's 5,000 KPIs, but can you create the top 5?
Right.
So I think that's how more strategic and more fun.
Mm. And you also mentioned, specializing in, becoming a fractional CFO. What's the value for a company? How can a fractional CFO provide better value compared to, say, a full-time hire for, say, a growing company?
So from the company's perspective, the company can save up to 60% rather than compared to getting a full-time CFO.
Wow.
Just because if I truly believe if the company is not in the market, let's say IPO'd and they're floating, you don't really need a full-time CFO. unless
Mm,
you're in a very compliance-heavy industry, but then you'll have a chief compliance officer. So
of course.
that belief and speaking to at least reaching out to 50,000 plus CEOs around the world, that experience has led me to believe that this fractional executive works pretty well with CFOs. So the difference is this, that as a CFO, I've been fully employed, full-time employed, and there's a lot of times where, I didn't, it was a slow process. You wait till the month end, or you're in a shareholder meeting. I felt almost like, I need to tell the guys, hey, listen, you are paying me for the times that I'm not actually doing much.
Mm,
And if you go in practice, you'll see from PwC to EY, it's all based in that model.
right.
Everyone has 12 to 15 clients if you go to EY. I had 42 when I started.
Wow.
So so yeah, I think accountants and CFOs and FDs, we can get into this idea that give me 5 clients, let them pay 5K a month. I'm earning 25K a month. That is 4x what I had before, or
Right.
5x for a lot of people. So just understanding a little bit of change from the CFO perspective can open that world. So yeah, it's a win-win for both sides because the companies are saving and the CFOs are, tripling their sort of net income.
I guess that's an interesting perspective that maybe a lot of CEOs possibly overlook in the sense of, that CFO, if you're a highly regulated company, stock listed, sure, you may need to be in the office and working every day. There may be days that once the work is done, those 2 days may not be spent doing as much or being in a few meetings where they're not necessarily needed. And that's where that fractional CFO can step in and do a lot more in a short period, basically.
Yeah. And also just to tap on that, almost 80% of accounting processes, from collecting receipts to invoices to chasing your client who hasn't paid, to even reconciliation to some extent, is automized.
Mm,
So what is a CFO going to do then? Then you need to branch out. And so they truly believe that if you have impact work, so when you do work, you're doing work for a client, and you have a team either outsourced or a 2-man, 3-man team that is completely automized, that's it. You don't really need a full-time CFO to then, watch every move and be like a guardian. Those days are gone.
yeah, I mean, it's not like it's the 90s where there's, one old school Excel spreadsheet, bits of paper running around monitoring everything. There's tools now, there's software, there's platforms for every bit of part of the business. So I guess that day-to-day number crunching has probably been pushed back a little bit, which does bring me on to my next question because you talk so highly about fractional CFOs adding a little bit more. I'd love to hear your views on how can a fractional CFO contribute to a company beyond just number crunching? What other kind of bits and pieces did they add to the overall business?
I think that's a really good question. And that actually sort of, hopefully, if someone's listening who is an FD or a CFO working for a company, would inspire them to start doing fractional work, is that you are involved in a board level. You are involved in the strategy of how do we take this product to market, right? That
Mhm.
question where it was predominantly the CEO or the chief business development officer is now a foundational part of a CFO. Because if we are the chief visionary officers, if we are the ones who quantify the vision, so we need to understand how and when we're going to go. Imagine that, but doing it for a couple of clients. So you might have someone who is in the EV sector and someone who's also a fintech. It's so much more inspiring to understand the sort of the each industry, the complication and problems, and how to solve that. That in itself is really exciting for me. And so yeah, the evolving of CFO as a role has led to fractional. I think fractional is the most modern, the most unique way for anyone. I feel like anyone who is an executive, but definitely for FD CFO, strategic level CFOs to actually apply that sort of principle to increase the income.
Right. You mentioned something interesting there that caught my attention. You refer to CFOs as being vision officers. What's your view on this take? What's a vision officer? How does it align with the modern CFO of today?
Yeah, I think it aligns completely. If you think about if the retrospective idea, the retrospective part of the job spec for a CFO is completely automized. If that is done by tech, if that's done by platform or an outsourced agency who you pay £200 a month, then what's left is forward looking. So
Mm.
I was always a non-traditional CFO, so I wouldn't say that I was very traditional. But if someone comes to me and says that, my business will be worth 3 billion in the next 6 months, traditional CFOs would laugh and leave the room. But
Of
I always
course.
stayed and said, okay, that's your vision. Let's quantify that. Let's break
Right.
it. What does it mean for which countries you would go to? What is the market? What is the TAM? What is the valuation increase and decrease? What are the revenue streams? What are the cost buckets? So I feel a CFO, forward-looking CFO, a modern CFO is actually the people who will print the vision for CEOs and companies.
Mm. And it's often overlooked just how important those board meetings are from a CFO's perspective. You, just as well as the CEO, also drive that vision, make sure everybody is on board as well, you know.
Yeah, 100%.
It'd be interesting for you to, for those viewers that have maybe caught the attention of becoming a fractional CFO, I'm going to assume that there's a lot of CFOs and probably even yourself once upon a time in your career that have been working for one company for a year, 10 years, 20 years, never even thought about becoming a fractional CFO. And you've talked upon some of the interesting benefits, but I'd like to hear a little bit more about um, just from a career perspective, how would someone transition from being a CFO to a fractional CFO, and really, what's the benefits for them in terms of a career change?
Great and great question, but there's a lot of layers to it. So what I can do is I can give you an example on how my company Beyond Elevation helps.
Yep, sure.
So initially, it's about understanding that you are doing impact-based work, which means that you can separate out 2 hours a day that you work for a client. Not the
Right.
day rates anymore, not the old school sort of weekly rates or monthly rates. It is about on-demand work. So that's what fractional CFO is, but you can also forecast that every 2 hours, every Tuesday, you'll work for X and X company.
Right.
The second layer of it is understanding what do you want from it. As a CFO, transitioning into fractional CFO, is working remotely important for you? Do you want to have mornings? For example, we'll have somebody who would focus on US or North American clients, but live in next a seaside town in England where he or she won't even start work until 1 p.m., which means they have
Mm.
the entire morning free for their routine, spending time with kids, priorities. So we really want to understand what it is, the vision of that CFO transitioning into a fractional CFO.
Right.
And then what are your value adds, right? Do you focus on fundraising, which is a really, really big part of what we do? So if you focus on
Okay.
fundraising, there's a lot of demand for it.
Hmm.
Do you focus on companies who are already established to create scalable processes? There's many things. So
Of
we
course.
understand that. And then the transition is create your brand. How can we make sure you're always in front of people? We help with that. Things that has worked for me to 10x my income as a fractional CFO, I will take that in how to create funnels so you are reaching the right people, how to actually create a brand where it sounds like you,
Hmm.
authentic. So we work on all of those and we'll create the funnel. We'll actually also represent them in front of the clientele we already have. So the transition is actually really dictated by what do you want? What are your priorities? Morning priorities? Do you want to finish work at 3 and never look at your computer again? It just really depends. Or you want to get 10 clients and 50K a month, 60K, 100K a month, and do it for 3 years, and then you want to relax. Whatever it is, we try to
Mm.
do that. But the main important thing is just to, again, you want to be a chief vision officer, do that for your own life. Fractional work allows that. So I'm very bullish on just fractional work generally. So we
Right.
also help marketing, business development guys who who can help. We do chief people officers, help them transition to fractional CPOs. So I truly believe as we're going into this new world of sort of working for ethos, working for impact, working for more of a deeper, having a real work-life balance, I
Mm.
truly fractional jobs will do that.
So, I mean, it's not just in terms of Beyond Elevation, not just CFOs, it's roles all across the board, right? That because
Yeah.
I guess there's also probably viewers that might, you know, come across a clip of this on LinkedIn and actually consider could be sales, it could be HR doing fractional work. So I guess the possibilities are endless, really. Um,
Possibilities are endless. And to be honest, it only works in a higher level, really. If you're an
mm,
executive, so if you have the title manager or director or C in front of your title, it works better
okay,
because companies would want to tap into your skill set.
of
And
course.
if there's companies, that means there's like 10 or 20 options. You can actually divide what's your problem, that solution. I'll be there every Tuesday solving that for you for the next 6 months. And then you go to B, C, D. So it just works.
I mean, obviously, we've seen like I mean, I know this has come up hundreds of times, but when COVID come around, it was that idea of working from home was actually quite new for maybe 80% of businesses, and now you've got roles all across the board that may do one day working from home, may do full time, but now the idea opens up about being fractional, where you can also do that, but then tailored to your life is what you're saying. You can work around your own hours, put yourself first. And you possibly may be a CFO in one particular industry, say engineering. Now with the fractional work, you can unlock doors to working in new markets as well to kind of broaden your horizon, which may have not been possible before, right?
100%. And then if you like it, you want to be full time again. But I can almost guarantee you're not going to go back. Um, it's just the autonomy, the freedom, and the learning new things. It's just more exciting.
Mm. And if you can share some of your, you've been a CFO for many, many years, have got the luxury of working with many different CFOs. Can you share just a few tips on maybe your top five best ways that businesses can reduce costs that are maybe often overlooked?
Top five. Okay. So costs. I am just before I say what I'm
Yeah,
about to
go
say.
for it.
I am as I said, I'm not a traditional CFO, which means that I actually don't focus on reducing cost. I
Okay.
focus on how can the cost be impactful. And if
Mm,
something is not adding impact, done, right? You create models and frameworks around it in your company that you work for. So anything that if you need to grow, you need to invest, be it personally in your personal life or if you're working for a company. So I don't go at it from the fact of, oh, let's save as much as we can.
yeah.
Saying that, good sort of transition from here. I think the number one rule that I have and that I've seen successful CFOs do is what I was talking about is finding a model that gives you an impact per cost. So
Right.
if we want to go from using a spreadsheet as a CRM to Pipedrive or some other fancy platform,
Hmm.
we pay £3,000 a month. What is that impact? Does it have on? Now, the impact can be monetary. The impact can also be satisfaction of employees. So
Right.
you create this metric, you create a framework. Impact-based costing is definitely number one for me personally.
Hmm.
Um, I also think uh, again, not to blow my own trumpet. I'm not sure what the
Trumpet, that's the one. But this is
trumpet.
what we're here for. Go, this is exactly what we want to hear. This is the right platform for it.
Um,
Go for it.
Fractional executives will save you that money, right? Because if you really look into it as an SME, especially as an SME, you don't always require a CFO. You don't always need that CFO to just be here. You need it for reports. What do we do with the reports? Strategic vision, financial modeling. Like most CFOs can do it in their sleep.
Mm,
So But the CEOs only require a certain time they would want a CFO to come in. So again, fractional recruitment, on-demand model of recruitment really helps. It saves. So we charge 0% for any company that wants to hire an executive
Right.
on commissions. We have zero commission. And if you know, recruitment is pretty intense when, if my salary is 500,000, you will have to pay 25% upfront. That
All
is
that.
crazy.
Of course, yeah.
And I hated paying recruitment fee as a CFO. So I think you definitely save a lot for fractional ownership. That would be number two. Number three, I would definitely say ownership, accountability. So as a CFO, don't take everything in your head. Don't think you are the savior. Yes, you are, but you're also the person who's responsible for the machine to work, which
Mm.
means you need to find department heads who own their own budgets. If you have the marketing guy owning the marketing budget and the operational girl owning the operational budget and the staff and the HR, then it makes your life easier. So have accountability, spread it out,
Sure.
uh, and that would manage the cost. And if not, if you put a threshold at saying don't spend more than 50K a month on XYZ, most people would want to reduce the cost. And that psychology in itself will reduce the cost.
And just to quickly add one thing in there, I'm going to assume that there's a lot of maybe smaller companies, SMEs that maybe you've got a CFO that is in charge of the budgets. Everything has to be reported to him. In your experience, does it work better to actually give some accountability away to each head of department? Is that something you've seen previously that works?
Yeah, 100%. And not just that, I have seen, look, fundamentally, we're all human beings and we want more than just going to work 9 to 5. And the best way to feel impactful or feel like you belong in life generally, I don't want to be too philosophical, is being wanted and knowing that you mean something, right?
Mm.
So if that's a fundamental of what life is, I feel the same way you would feel the same way. If someone denies it, I will sit down 30 minutes and I will figure out what is actually triggering that person. So going back to that ethos, if I say to the marketing, if as a CFO, I say, look, this is the budget, you are now accountable. I get 9 times out of 10, I have seen that person step up. It's just a natural way we work.
Mm.
And so why not? As a C-suite, this is what I'm saying. The CFOs have transitioned. You have to think from an emotional intelligence perspective. You have to think from not just a finance perspective, but also how to work with people. So yeah, I 100% agree with what you say. 100% agree with what I just said, that you really, when you put accountability on the table, people show up
Wow.
9 times out of 10.
Mm.
Going back to the cost saving, I think we live in a globalized world. I'm not a big fan of globalization in whole. Like, if Coca-Cola was amazing 60s, don't copy paste it to China or Southern Asia or Africa. It's
Yeah.
just going to be very bad for the environment. But I am a big fan of utilizing the globe, if it makes sense. So,
Hmm.
for example, South Africa, there's a lot of South Africans who are coming out of university, which they have a really good high standard of education, they don't get jobs. And
Mm.
it's not easy for them to come abroad because of their passport. It's not as strong as, let's say, US or UK. You can easily, South Africa being 2 hours, 1 hour differences, depends on summer or winter. You can hire someone in South Africa with 25% of the cost that you would if you hired someone in your country, which means remote work and working, but they don't work in executive level. That's where Beyond Elevation comes in, but it works in every other level.
Mm.
So I think globally, think, spread out, think about talents, think about culture. Those things actually make a company successful, but also you can save a lot of money for
Mm.
sure.
Well, I mean, I'm just looking. Even an hour ago, you'd be surprised how many cold emails I'll get for remote work. Here, hire this salesperson or this HR person in these, remote parts of possibly Africa that are only, same time difference, maybe an hour away. So there seems to be a big trend on that as well, which people are starting to realize.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Um, And the last I would say is a bit more technical. It's more for the CFOs who love the sort of being a CFO. I would say that what's worked for me in the past is creating three separate budgets for cost reduction. Number one, if everything is sweet, we are making all the sales, we have a grand vision of being the number one in the world, what's the budget for that? And the second, have a different scenario. If that doesn't work out, with a different scenario, what would the budget be? And the third, which not many people do, is what I call a skeleton budget. What would it take? What is the cost that it takes for the company to run if all the fancy stuff are out, right?
Mm.
What is the bare minimum? We call it a skeleton budget because you're removing everything that is sort of quote unquote fancy or things that will help grow. But what is the basic? And whenever you do this exercise, you create three. You have to create three. You can't just create one. Is the same principle behind if you ever go through your wardrobe and you see all the tons of clothes and shoes you have. I don't know you, but my missus definitely has. Um, so I tell her this. I say, create three piles. One that you must need.
Hmm.
You will wear this again. The second is maybe, and the third is you don't need it. And after you've done these three piles, leave the maybe and what you don't need, bin it, because the
Right.
maybe you never needed in the first place.
Yep.
So this is the same principle, and we have to, no matter how smart you are, if you do these three steps, you really realize what is important for your company and what is not. Same
Right.
with those.
It's amazing to listen to your perspective on it, because I guess there's probably CFOs that do it, and probably some that are listening to this going, I've maybe overlooked this. This is something that I need to incorporate into my business. Yeah, I also like how you mentioned, I asked you 5 ways that you can possibly reduce costs that are overlooked. But at the same point that you kind of said there is that it's not all about the cost saving. Sometimes it's about investing, but then realizing what are we actually going to get back from this, and the role as a CFO to make sure that there's returns on that. Because I've had plenty of conversations with CFOs, even in recent times, that are all focusing on reducing costs. But if your business wants to grow, you have to invest, and you want to find out what those returns are, right?
100%. ROI on everything. There's ROI on transition. There's ROI on someone getting married. There's ROI on you choosing to be fractional from full-time job. There's ROI on everything. And I think if you
Yeah,
have that mindset, you'll understand. I guess when it comes to personal things, you probably not. If it's, I don't want to tell my wife that, I am looking for ROI from you.
of
Uh,
course.
some
I
things
don't.
are done.
I can't
Uh,
imagine that conversation going particularly well.
no,
But yeah.
no. She's used to it. But yeah, she completely goes numb. She's like, are you still talking? And I'm like, yeah, I've been for the last. But yeah, 100%. Look for ROI. That's our job. That's a CFO's job. I think traditional CFO roles are changing and we have to adapt. And everyone's always asking me, oh, AI is going to take over. What do we adapt to? And what do we become? Which softwares do we use? Do I learn BI? What is XP&A? I knew FP&A, but what is this XP&A? And my
Mm,
question is always the same. It is about how can you give more return on the business expenditures, on the business focusing its energy somewhere? So if you focus your energy in a particular market, as the CFO, you should know we shouldn't go to Africa. We should go to Southern Asia if we want to globalize, because
yeah.
that's going to be XYZ. That's your job.
Hmm.
So think about return rather than cost reduction. I would say that. But again, I can almost guarantee you 90% of traditional CFO will disagree with that statement.
Of course, but this is why we're here, and we love the alternative views. This is what the people would rather listen to. Someone else talking about something new to actually learn from. Um, just to kind of finish off the piece, I'd love to do a really quick fire round. Just ask a couple of quick questions. Hayat, if you can kindly share some of the best tech, some of the best bits of software that you've used in recent times that are helping CFOs in today's climate. It could be an FP&A software, it could be a CRM, anything that you enjoy using. that you can kindly share?
That's a big one because all I do is use platforms. But one in particular I'm using recently, the last couple of months, that I love, and it's again controversial to a traditional CFO. It's called Milanote.
Okay.
Milanote is for creative agencies or people who create art and manage projects and then create sort of a little wire. I need to do this because if I do this, this will happen. It's like a little like a Figma board.
Okay.
I like to use it because I truly believe CFOs, our brains are sort of work in frameworks. We work in like the numbers, this leads to that, that leads to this. So I love that. Is you can create whatever you want. You can create
Mm,
a Kanban board. You can create different task lists. You can task lists, or you can just create a complete sketch of your entire brain onto a laptop. So I
right.
like that. I think give it a shot if you're trying to use trying something new for managing your work and so on. Second, I don't think it's a surprise, but ChatGPT.
Of
I
course.
think ChatGPT used right, like I would get a set of P&L and balance sheet and tons of general ledger of 15,000 transactions, and I'll just upload it to ChatGPT. And I wouldn't tell ChatGPT what are the top things I should care about. I would dictate that. I would say that I want to go to, I don't know, New Zealand. Can you understand the demographic and spending behavior of people who live in New Zealand and tell me where and what cost change that we need to do, or give me a marketing budget that I need to do? And it works wonders from a fundamental standpoint. Then
Hmm.
you take that and you then create something pretty much a go-to-market plan from just that bit.
Wow. And this is with the standard version. Is this any paid plugins that
No,
on
I think you should get the paid version, which is 20
sure.
pounds I think, per month.
Okay.
Uh, so yeah, I would definitely recommend ChatGPT, but generally just speak to it like it's your assistant, and you'd be
Mm.
surprised what it comes with.
Wow. Okay. And what's the best book you've ever read? This can be work based or not, just to share.
100%. There's plenty, but I think the one that comes to my mind is Money by Rob Moore. Before reading that book, I used to look at a Ferrari and a young guy in a Ferrari, and I used to think, that's money. I used to think drug dealer. Now, when I look at a Ferrari and I see a young guy, and I say, what did he do to be able to afford that? Did he work hard? Did he have some sort of social media? Is he in marketing? And I ask questions and I don't judge based on that. And I think it opens your mind up.
Okay, perfect. And lastly, what is the best way for people to reach out to you? Um, you know, is there, do you prefer LinkedIn, email? I'm sure that, there's lots of people that have listened to this and, have really caught on about possibly becoming a fractional CFO. Maybe they just want to follow up with a few questions. What's the best way for people to reach out to you directly?
So currently, definitely LinkedIn.
Yeah,
Just search my name, I should pop up. But we are working in the background to create a completely different social media presence for the company and I. So watch the space. But yeah, LinkedIn or email me at Hayat, Hayat, at beyondelevation.com.
perfect. Hayat, thank you so much for your time. We had an absolute blast. I'm sure people will learn a lot. And yeah, make sure that you keep an eye on this space. And yeah, I'm sure we'll catch up soon.
Thank you, Zach.